countries. Acting Sars Commissioner Mark Kingon is expected to testify at the Nugent Commission of Inquiry today. Now, he was temporarily appointed to take over while Commissioner Tom Moyane is on suspension. The inquiry is probing tax administration and governance issues at the South African Revenue Service. eNCA's Heidi Giokos has been following that hearing for us. She's here to fill us in this morning. Heidi, good morning. What a complicated story this is, but let's start firstly with what are the expectations of Mark Kingon today? What are we expecting to hear from him?
So you must remember he took over as soon as Tom Moyane was suspended in March. So we're obviously just going to hear about staff morale. When I interviewed him earlier this week, he did specify that he will be speaking about the environment and climate at SARS, given the fact that there has been a word that there's a lot of fear, a lot of distrust happening at the Revenue Service. So I think today he will obviously speak about the executive's point when it comes to this commission and what they have been experiencing. The Revenue Service is facing a number of issues, and it's very concerning given the fact that this is our revenue collector and we have a revenue shortfall of about 50 billion rand. E-filing, the whole IT system is a big worry at the moment because it's just degenerating. So Mark will obviously shed some light on how things currently are, given the fact that there has been so many problems.
So all of this going back to what we're now seeing as possible bad management by Tom Moyane, all of that going to that argument, what we're expecting to hear from Mr. Kingon. Exactly,
and you heard the judge coming out yesterday saying that it is a matter of urgency that the president makes a decision on whether he's going to remove Tom Moyane or not. We know that in his interim report he has put that as his first...
He's quite adamant about it, and he's still pushing for it, despite not telling us, you know, exactly why. We know the general issue, but he's actually sort of put his foot down on this.
That is exactly it. And yesterday he reiterated this point, saying that just because this is an interim report does not mean my decision to remove him is interim. It is the final decision, and I want...
Because you actually haven't heard from everybody, like we still to hear from Mark Kingon, and we haven't heard... So
but I think obviously from all the evidence gathered, there have been over 60 witnesses since the start of this commission in June. They obviously have evidence that they aren't able to disclose with us, but they have gathered evidence, and the judge says that it is a unanimous decision from the commission that they believe that Tom Moyane needs to be removed as commissioner.
Makes you wonder, what is it that they have that they can make that decision and make that pronouncement at that time? But of course the president's hands are tied, Heidi, because we have a constitutional court case. You have Tom Moyane fighting this as well. So he can't... Could he make that decision right now based on this?
Well, he could. I think at the end of the day it all lies in the president's hands. That's why he's been given this interim report. We heard from the judge yesterday. He basically said that just because the president wants a final report in November does not mean he can't make a decision now. We know that Tom Moyane has gone to the Constitutional Court to try and hold this. And the reason for this is because there is a separate disciplinary hearing that Tom Moyane is facing, but that is specifically focused on Tom Moyane, where this Commission of Inquiry is focusing on tax administration and governance at SARS and what went wrong and why so many highly skilled people left the Revenue Service. So we're just going to have to wait and see what the Constitutional Court says, if they're going to hold this Commission of Inquiry at all. But there are only a few weeks left because the final report needs to be handed over by November.
So how many more after Mark Kingon are we expecting? Are we close to the end?
So next week, Monday, we will see a number of people, including Luther Labello, who previously testified, and he claimed that he's been unfairly treated in this commission. And Tuesday, we will see Gartner, who's been, you know, the highlight of this commission, given the fact that they were a consultancy firm hired to change up the modernization model and paid millions of rands, yet nothing was properly done.
Okay, let's see what happens. And as we know, the president's been off sick this week, so I don't know how much of this he's been focusing on. Thanks very much, Heidi Giokos, bringing us up to speed there.